In our previous screencast on functions, we established that function notation is of the form f of the input equals the output, where f is the name of the relationship that links particular inputs with particular outputs. Other common names used for a function are g or h, and in general, the notation always has the next to the name of the function, it always has the input in parentheses. We also established that for each input, there can only be one output. So each input has only one output for reasons seen in a previous screencast. Let's revisit a problem that we looked at in the previous screencast. Suppose Radical Gym charges a one-time initiation fee of $120, then $6 per workout. Suppose Prime Gym charges a one-time initiation fee of $150, then $4 per workout. Let W represent the number of workouts and let T be the total amount of money spent. Write the input-output rule symbolically for each relationship using function notation. So right here, we've got the input-output rule represented numerically. We did this in the previous screencast. Just to give you an idea, a reminder where this came from, to get this $132 for 2 workouts, we took the $6 cost of a workout for Radical Gym, multiplied it by the 2 workouts, plus the initiation fee of $120. That gives us this $132. And over here, 2 workouts at Prime Gym would cost a total of $158 from the beginning, because at Prime Gym, each workout costs $4, and you're going to do 2 of them, plus you have the initiation fee of $150. And this arithmetic here is $158. We now want to generalize this relationship by writing it symbolically. And in writing it symbolically, we want to actually use function notation. All right, so don't forget we've got these variables here defined, and the relationship between number of workouts and the total amount of money spent for Radical Gym, we called that F, and the relationship between the number of workouts and the total amount of money spent at Prime Gym, we represented with the letter G. Let's first work with Radical Gym. Remember, the notation is of this form, f of the input equals the output, and in this particular case, we are actually using f to represent the name. So we want f of the input, and the input variable is w. We're putting in the variable w instead of a specific number because we want to capture the relationship in general. So we have f of w equals the output. And of course, yes, the output is t, but in our equation, we want to say how you do that computation. How do you get t with w? Well, that's by looking closely at this. Ultimately, you take the number of workouts, multiply it by 6, because that's how much each workout costs, and then you add in the initiation fee. So we're going to take the number of workouts w, multiply it by 6, because that's how much each workout costs. Then we also need to add on the initiation fee of $120. This is the symbolic relationship between the number of workouts and the total amount of money spent for Radical Gym in function notation. Now, typically, you actually won't even see this here. It's typically going to be written as f of w equals 6w plus 120. This is the most common way you would see this. Technically, f of w is representing t. F of w is the output that goes with the input w. And this is the general rule. We'll get practice working with this in a coming slide. First, let's come up with the equation for Prime Gym. And again, we're using G to represent the relationship between the number of workouts and the total amount of money spent. So instead of writing F of the input, it's going to be G of the input. So we've got G of, and again, the input variable is W. So we've got G of W equals, and again, that equals the output. And the output, of course, is represented by T, so we'll put that in there. But we want to know, how do you get that output T from the input W? And we generalize this idea here. You take the number of workouts, multiply it by $4, because it's $4 per workout, and add on the initiation fee of $150. So we're going to take the number of workouts, W, multiply it by 4, because it's $4 per workout, and we got to add on the initiation fee of $150. And again, you won't likely see this T here. It'll just be written as G of W equals 4W plus 150. Now that we've got symbolic rules for both Radical Gym and Prime Gym, let's see if we can use these two rules. From the previous screen, we established that f of W equals 120 plus 6W for Radical Gym. on the previous screen, it was written as 6w plus 120, but that's the same thing, adding in whatever order doesn't matter. And for prime gym, we got established g of w equals 150 plus 4w. So we've got our two function relationships defined. Now let's see if we can use them. So this says to find f of 30. Again, this is read as f of 30. So we want to find f of 30. What that means is we've got an input of 30 and we want to know what the corresponding output is. Well, this is the rule. Again, it says f, so we're talking about radical gym. The rule is this: you take 120 and you add to that 6 times whatever the number of workouts is. And in this case, it's 30. So when you read this rule, that W and this W are the same thing. This is telling you how to do the computation. So we plugged in 30 for W because that's what they gave us here. And now if you do the arithmetic, we get 120 plus 180 is 300. So we get f of 30 equals 300. Now the question is, what does this mean? All right, we don't want to do mathematical computations and have no idea what this is telling us. This is telling us that, again, remember, the 30 here is an input, and we just found the corresponding output. And the inputs were the number of workouts, and the outputs were how much money spent in total. Now, again, we had to pay attention to the function name. This tells us we are talking about Radical Gym. So if you work out 30 times at Radical Gym, it will cost $300. So if you work out 30 times at Radical Gym, and it's very important that that's in there because the F is telling us we're talking about Radical Gym. If you work out 30 times at Radical Gym, then you will have spent $300. Let's try another one. Let's find g of 55. And in this case, the function name is g, so that's telling us we are talking about prime gym, not about Radical Gym. So we want g of 55. So 55 is our input, and we see up here, to get the corresponding output, we do this computation, 150 plus 4 times w, whatever that input is. So we've got 150 plus 4 times w in this case is 55, so 4 times 55. And now if we do the arithmetic, we've got 4 times 55 is 220, plus 150 is 370. Again, there's no point in doing computations and having no idea what this is telling us. What's the meaning of the result? We were given the input of 55, and we found the corresponding output of 370. And again, your input is the number of workouts, and your output is the total amount of money spent. So this means if you work out 55 times at Prime Gym, because G refers to Prime Gym, then you will have spent $370 in total. So if you work out 55 times at Prime Gym, then you will have spent $370. So once you've come up with the input-output rule in symbolic form, common questions are, they're going to ask you for f of a particular number. And what that's basically saying is they're giving you an input and they want to know what's the corresponding output. The other scenario that can happen is they could give us an output and you need to find the corresponding input. But before we do that, let's note some language that you may hear when it comes to functions. In this case, t is called a function of w, not the other way around. T is a function of w, and what that ultimately generalizes to is we always say the output is a function of the input, not the other way around. Not the input is a function of the output, it's the output is a function of the input. So since t is the output variable and w is the input variable, we say that t is a function of w. We now want to answer these two questions down here. Find w if f of w equals 168. And again, here's the general notation for functions. You've got whatever the name of your function is, in this case f, you've got f of the input is equal to the output. So in this case, they want us to find W such that f of W equals 168. So is that 168 an input or an output based on this notation here? Well, the input is always next to the name of the function in parentheses. So this must be the output. So they're basically saying, what is the input when the output is 168? Now, there is a technical way to do this that we will do in the near future, but for now, notice that I included the numerical representation of the input-output rule, and that $168 is actually one of the dollar amounts over here. So the question is find the number of workouts that has $168 total associated with it. Well, $168 goes with 8 workouts. And again, we're looking at this table, not this table, because F is telling us we're working with the radical gym. So our answer here is W equals 8. And again, what that means is if you work out 8 times, then that will have cost you a total of $168 at Radical Gym. So you can be given an input and you've got to find the output, or you can be given an output and you've got to find the input. In general, when given an output, to be able to find the input, we need to be able to solve equations. We haven't yet done that, so that's why we're just looking at this table here. Let's try this one. Find W if G of W equals 190. Again, the G is telling us we're talking about the relationship with respect to prime gym. So we want to find the input W such that the output is 190. And you see that happens right here. The corresponding number of workouts is 10. So in this case, W equals 10. And again, what this tells me is if you work out 10 times at Prime Gym, then it will cost you $190. With our functions, you will either be given an input and you have to find the output, or you will be given an output and you have to find the input.